And as we're talking about excellent science, it's a truism probably that in order to do excellent science, the first thing you need is excellent scientists. And I'm very pleased that we have a panel of excellent scientists here today. Moderating the session for us, we have Professor Helmut Schober, who is the director of the Institut Langevin in Grenoble, and also the chair of the League of European Advanced Neutron Sources. And I'm very pleased, Professor, to give you the floor to introduce the panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So it's really a great pleasure to be here today. So I was told that I should bring up during the first 7 minutes the temperature, and so I will start out by telling you something personal, which is if you ask me what was the best time in history to live, I would say the present one. And that might come as a surprise if you look at the newspapers, right? And the reason is simply because I think the last 50 years we lived the most outstanding adventure that humans have ever seen. And this adventure was linked to science. 50 years ago, when I was going to my high school, while we stipulated maybe black holes are still a singularity of Einstein's equations, the genome, yeah, it was there, the structure was there. If you look out today, everything has changed. We discover black holes everywhere, we see them merge. Students can order proteins by sending in genetic sequences. The whole world has changed and your whole life has changed, and we are at the center of that as scientists, and those my age had the privilege to be part of that. So I give you two examples to illustrate why I think what excellence is. Let's go about it in this way. Let's try to define excellence. And the first one you see up there on the screen is two neutron stars colliding. Now, that was a tremendous event. It took place on the 17th of August 2017. The event took place 100 million years ago, because the light takes some time to come to us. But that is when gravitational waves discovered this collision. Now, you have to think about what we have achieved here, right? I mean, gravitational waves distort space by 10 to the minus 21. That means even if you take the diameter of the Earth, you have to discover fractions of expansions or expansions that are fractions of the diameter of a nucleus. So that's mind-boggling for me. That's mission impossible, you would say. Even Einstein said, well, I have calculated these things can exist, but they're not observable. And we did it, right? We discovered those, and not only did we get the signal, we got the signal from 3 detectors. Those 3 detectors, one of them in Europe, they determined where the event had happened in the sky. They told the telescopes that we have all around the world, look at that. The telescope looked there, they got information about the elements that were created there. And we know today that our theory is that most of the gold on Earth is coming from this kind of event, in the same way as most of the uranium is true. So that's incredible impact for me. That widens our cognitive horizon, right? We were in a room like this before. All of a sudden, somebody switched on the lights outside, and we look out to the confines of the universe, and we look back to the beginning of the universe. So that's what excellence is. You push the frontiers. You do the things that people told you that were impossible. And you also, and the people who were in those projects, they know very well, you have to fight for many years against the skeptics, and you have to believe in what you're doing. You have to bring the brightest minds together. On the next slide, it's a little bit different, if I can get it. No, that should be a protein now, right? Now imagine just that the 2 neutron stars, they are a protein. And so we use some of the elements that were produced by this collision. At the ILL, we get the neutrons out, and we do material science studies. And the protein that you should see up there is a protease. And if you like, for the layman, it's a pair of scissors, right? It's a pair of scissors. And when the AIDS virus duplicates in our immune cells, it buds, it's not mature because it has a protein which is a super protein. It has to be cut up in pieces so that this virus can really be contagious and propagate the disease. So now you can imagine you have a pair of scissors. What can you do? You block the pair of scissors. And if you block the pair of scissors, you make sure that the patient, at least the disease is stopped. It cannot propagate. So that's one of the pharmaceutical targets. And we have about 10 drugs at the moment that work on this. But you have to know the details. Viruses mutate, and there's people here on the podium that know that a lot better than me, and they adapt all the time. So you would like to really know where your drug binds to the structure. And it's very delicate because, as we have found out, for example, you add in a protein, after all, that has 22,000 atoms, you add 4 protons at the periphery and everything changes in the binding site. And this is this extra information that we have contributed with the neutrons. The rest has been done with synchrotrons. It's one of the best studied structures ever by mankind. And there we have the medication and the people so we put the drug into the protein, we looked at it, and we also checked where's the water, really the tiniest little details. And they now go out and think differently about the next generation. They will maybe put the fluorine ion here or there to improve this binding. So you can't get the protein, sorry for that. So that was the 2 examples. And what does it mean? What is the backbone of this excellence? Well, everywhere you need the brightest people that really are convinced of what they are doing in their science, stubborn, pushing things forwards. And they need the best possible tools. If you look at the gravitational waves, that's technology in lasers, in mirror production, pushed to the limits. You need technology for that. And you also see it's all interconnected. Nobody does it normally on their own. So you need also an ecosystem that provides you with the right framework to do this. And one of those, that's those research infrastructures that I am responsible for at the ILL, where we put at the disposition of all those scientists from all natural sciences the best possible tools to do the material research. And we will hear more from that afterwards. So I think I will leave it here for the introduction, and it's a real pleasure. I must say I'm humbled by the people I have here around me on the stage. Okay, so that's the protein you see. On the left, this is an artist's impression of the AIDS virus. And you see it has, the polypeptide chain comes in, it's cut at 9 specific points. And we have determined at the ILL what the proton influence is, because that's good for neutrons, and where the water is. And that's the drug that we have investigated, and that's on the market that you can buy in the pharmacy. So thank you very much for the protein. Now back to the panel, and it's a great pleasure to introduce Valeria, and she will tell you a little bit about her research, and in particular also how European programs have helped her with developing all the nice science